In scriptures, the human body is often referred to as the temple of God. Yet, it is quite an uncommon privilege for any soul to attain this sacred abode that houses the divine, as it is truly a blessing to be reborn as a human being. On several occasions, Supreme Master Ching Hai has spoken about the rarity of this phenomenon.
To be reincarnate in the human world is hard. You have to have enough human quality. You have to have affinity with the parents, yeah, and with the society, with the people around which you were born. And very difficult. To be a human, you need some merit. You have done something good in the past in order to be able, yeah, to be able to pick a human birth.
As a living temple of God, the human body is fully equipped with miraculous wonders that can be awakened in those who are spiritually conscious and have complete faith in the Creator of all life. Enigma, Latin for fasting, is the human ability to live without food. Since time immemorial, there have always been individuals who can sustain themselves on prana, or the vital life force. Through the grace of the providence, initiates, people who follow a food-free lifestyle, can draw the energy from nature to nourish themselves.
They live on the chi, from the ground, or from the forest, and from the sun and from the air. They make use of all that. Or they live on love, on faith alone.
These individuals are known as breatharians, pranarians or anidiots, solarians or watarians, and they come from all walks of life, from different cultures, and all corners of the world. Indeed, the possibilities and miracles in this life, as our benevolent Creator has designed for us, are endless. We only need to connect within to recognize our abounding largesse as God's children. Supreme Master Ching Hai has lovingly recommended a weekly series on Supreme Master Television to introduce those individuals of the past and present who have chosen to live food-free on earth. May their spiritual stories enthrall you. May hearts be opened and horizons be expanded. We now invite you to join us for our program, Mary J. Fancher, The Brooklyn Enigma, on Between Master and Disciples.
This program discusses the possibility of breatharianism, or living without eating food, and is not a full instruction. For your safety, please do not attempt to cease eating without proper expert guidance.
Dead and Yet Alive. The Extraordinary Case of Miss Fancher of Brooklyn. Facts verified by abundant testimony. A mental sight that is not the claptrap of clairvoyance. Lying for 13 years almost motionless, and at times cold with the chill of death and pulseless. Blind yet reading with perfect ease, seeing and describing acts and persons far removed from her bedside. Mental phenomena that might seem incredible except for the testimony of physicians, clergymen, teachers, and trustworthy friends, without food for months at a time, seeming never to sleep.
On November 24, 1878, an article published in the New York Sun in the U.S. introduced fascinated readers to the potential of the human body to live food-free. It told the story of Mary J. Fancher, popularly known as Molly Fancher, a woman in Brooklyn who lived for many years without the need for physical nourishment. To understand her story, let us first take a look at her background. Molly Fancher was born on August 16, 1848 in Attleboro, Massachusetts, USA, to James E. Fancher and Elizabeth Crosby. After her mother passed away when she was 2, her aunt, Susan E. Crosby, took care of Molly when her father remarried several years later. Attending school at an early age, Molly's aptitude for learning was so high that she entered Brooklyn Heights Seminary at almost 12 years old. Molly grew up to be a beautiful and accomplished young lady, quite popular with everyone at Brooklyn Heights Seminary. When she reached 18, Molly was engaged to be married. On June 8, 1865, after a day of shopping for her trousseau, Molly returned to her home in a horse-drawn carriage. The hoop of her skirt caught on the wheelbase as she stepped down, and the carriage driver took off too soon. The carriage dragged her down the street for a block before shouts from witnesses stopped the driver. Her skirts wrapped around her like a tourniquet, and she lay unconscious, with numerous broken ribs. Molly sustained severe injuries to her backbone, which resulted in spinal degenerative disease. She became bedridden. After 8 months of suffering, her illness worsened. Her aunt kept a diary of Molly's conditions as follows.
February 2nd, 1866. She was taken seriously ill. Her nervous system was completely deranged. Her head and feet coming together, she would roll like a hoop. She would also stand on her toes and spin like a top. Several persons were required to prevent her from doing personal injury to herself. February 8th, 1866. She went into a trance and was to all appearance dead. February 17th, she lost her eyesight. February 18th, she lost her speech. February 19th, she lost her hearing. February 22nd, she saw, spoke, and heard for half an hour, and then for a time lost these faculties. February 23rd, she lost the sense of sound. February 24th, the fingers closed. February 25th, the jaws locked. February 26th, the legs took a triple twist. March 7th, the spasms were violent. May 20th, 1866, she asked for food, ate a small piece of cracker, it being the first food she had taken in 7 weeks, and was able to retain on her stomach.
Despite being seriously ill and barely eating, sometimes for months, her body did not become emaciated. Worried about nourishment, her aunt and doctors forced her to eat, but she eventually vomited up all the food. The most she could consume was a teaspoon of liquid every now and again, sometimes at intervals of a month or so.
From May 24th to June 28th, she has not been able to take any nourishment. 1 pint of sweet oil has been used in bathing her chest and bowels, and that has been all the sustenance she has received.
Being constantly by the side of her beloved niece, her aunt often noted at her incredible strength in spite of her lack of nourishment. According to Abraham H. Daly, family friend and author of the book, Molly Fancher, The Brooklyn Enigma, an authentic statement of facts in the life of Mary J. Fancher, the psychological marvel of the 19th century, Molly's ability to live without food had significant ramifications.
Miss Crosby makes frequent mention of Miss Fancher's possessing unnatural strength. That she received a supply of strength from some source unknown to her attendants seems very certain, for how otherwise could life have been maintained for so long a period? Occasionally she expectorated blood, apparently from her lungs, which certainly would greatly weaken her. How it was possible to maintain life for several years during the time her sufferings were so great and the nourishment she received was so very small is very mysterious. Upon 1 or 2 occasions, when they were attempting to force nourishment upon her, which her stomach rejected, and which occasioned her great distress, in reply to Miss Crosby's remark that it was necessary she should receive it to maintain life, she is said to have replied that she received nourishment from a source of which Miss Crosby was ignorant.
It would seem that Molly believed she was being nourished by the divine source. News of Molly's food-free state, as well as her sudden development of paranormal abilities, traveled throughout the country. According to the New York Sun,
she has developed most astonishing powers, resembling second sight or clairvoyance, reading with ease the contents of sealed letters, describing articles in hidden packages, perusing books while absolutely blind. Sometimes her powers are voluntary, at other times they are unconsciously exercised. So little nourishment has she taken that it may be said she lives without food. She is surrounded by persons of social standing and refinement, and has always been exceedingly sensitive to any public mention or knowledge of her condition.
Despite attempts at keeping her identity location hidden, thousands of people flocked to her home on Downing Street to see for themselves the Brooklyn Enigma. Molly was visited by ordinary as well as people of eminent status, including clergymen, pastors, journalists, astronomers, architects, physicians, and scientists who sought to validate her conditions. Some doctors of eminence, despite having never met her in person, wrote doubting reports about her food-free state as well as her clairvoyant abilities. Yet eyewitness accounts were numerous who testified to the infallibility of the Brooklyn Enigma. One such testimony came from Dr. Charles B. West, the principal of Brooklyn Heights Seminary, who wrote,
Water, the juices of fruits, and other liquids have been introduced into her mouth, but scarcely any of them ever make their way to her stomach. So sensitive has this organ become, it will not retain anything within it. In the early part of her illness, it collapsed, so that by placing the hand in the cavity, her spinal column could be felt. There was no room for food. Her throat was rigid as a stick. Swallowing was out of the question. Her heart was greatly enlarged. Severe pains passed from it through her left side and shoulder. With slight exceptions, she has been blind. When I first saw her, she had but one sense, that of touch. With that, she could read with many times the rapidity of one by eyesight. This she did by running her fingers over the printed pages with equal facility in light or darkness. With the finger, she could discriminate the photographs of persons, the faces of callers, etc. She never sleeps, her rest being taking in trances.
On June 1, 1866, Molly entered a trance that lasted for an entire week. After coming out of it, she had no recollection whatsoever of what had transpired. The following day, she entered another trance that lasted incredibly for 9 years. In addition to being food-free during this entire period of time, Molly accomplished amazing feats while in an apparent state of sleep.
During those 9 years, she had spasms and trances. Sometimes her eyes were turned upward and backward in her head, but always remained sightless. During those 9 years, as I am informed from unquestionable authority, she wrote upwards of 6,500 letters, worked up 100,000 ounces of worsted, did a vast amount of fine embroidery and a great deal of very beautiful waxwork, cutting and coloring the flowers and leaves in the most ingenious and perfect manner. When the use of her two hands was required, the work was done above her head, her left hand being carried up to meet the position of her right hand as described. Her writing was done by inserting a pencil or pen in between the closed fingers of her left hand in the palm, so that the pencil or pen was held in her fist. Her handwriting was very regular and beautiful, her powers of composition very superior.
Although bedridden for 50 years, Molly was never bitter. Many testified to her loving and charitable personality, always ready to aid others in need. She was honest and straightforward, and possessed a keen insight and intuition into the human nature. Molly was known to be a brilliant and witty conversationalist. After celebrating her Golden Jubilee of 50 years in bed on February 3, 1916, Molly passed away 8 days later at the age of 67 to be forever known as the Brooklyn Enigma. Thank you, warm-hearted viewers, for your company for today's episode of Between Master and Disciples. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television for good people, good works, coming up after noteworthy news. May heavens grace your life with an abundance of joy and loving kindness.
Literature on living food-free. For a complete list, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/breatharians.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/BMD.